What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, Division Rivals? This is Steven Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel, where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. What's good, guys? It's good to be back, man. It's been a busy week with these new chicks hatching and stuff, guys. But I do got some stuff I'm going to talk about today, guys. We're going to do 10 observations from training camp that Gate City picked up on that I want to share with you guys and see if you guys saw some of the same things. And before we get started, guys, I just want to shout out my guy, Philly Fresh, with the merch and the gear, guys. If you haven't been to the Print Champ store to check out Philly Fresh's merchandise, he's got some merch there, man. You know, Philly Fresh is pretty good at the merchandise stuff, man. I like it. All right, y'all. 10 observations. I'm going to give you 5 offensive observations. I'm going to give you 5 defensive observations. And then let's talk in the comments, guys. All right, 5 offensive observations coming out of training camp. Training camp had ended. You know, obviously Thursday was the walkthrough. Today's the preseason game. Training camp is officially done, guys. So what I learned, number one thing I learned offensively, and look, I'm not trying to sell you fool's gold, guys. So please understand, this isn't me trying to push fool's gold on you. I know that there's much more work to do here. I'm not proclaiming this young man to be a top 12 quarterback or even top 20 yet. I'm just talking about positive, encouraging steps that I've heard and the teeny tiny bit I've seen. I want to speak directly to what those things are. Jalen Hurts is making progress. And I mean that both in his progressions, in his reads, and progress in terms of development, okay? And that's what I'm getting to, guys, is that the one thing I saw in the Pittsburgh game, which I know was a very small sample size in terms of how many snaps this young man took in that game, but I did see a young man that was clearly had been coached up to commit to his reads, to get past a 1-2 read, just kind of run it type thing. And I saw a guy that was playing on time with the offense. You guys know that one of the big criticisms I launched about Jalen Hurts was that he doesn't always play on time with the offense. There are times when there are definitely plays on the field, and because we found out later on, Doug Peterson was instructing him the minute he felt pressure to get rid of that football, I thought he bypassed and gave up on a lot of plays that there was meat on the bone, to be quite honest. And I think that we saw from that Pittsburgh game in a very, very short sample size, and by no means, guys, am I trying to tell you that's going to continue going forward, but I do think that it's a positive, encouraging sign here, guys. I've definitely heard some reporting that says, like, look, man, he's still a little slow to recognize and identify defenses. But at the same time, one thing that they can say that is a positive, encouraging kind of ordeal here is that he is making clear efforts to understand coverages, to understand what's going on here, and he's making it past 1-2 reads. And that's really all you can ask for this, guys, because number one, there's only so much scrambling you can do here, and it's what a lot of guys have pointed out, that he's way ahead of where he was last year at this time, to where he was really taking off if that first read wasn't there, to where there's encouraging signs, guys. Does it mean he's going to be the answer? No, not necessarily, but it does mean that there's reason to say, like, hey, he clearly got the message. The coaching staff is clearly being effective, and clearly Jalen Hurts is putting work in. That's all I'm saying personally. I think that's one observation that I came away with from this particular camp, guys. The number two offensive observation I can make, guys, is that Quez Watkins is starting to emerge as a playmaker. Look, last year prior to the draft, I said that his route tree wasn't deep. Like I said, that he didn't run a very diverse route tree, but in the small sample size of routes that I saw Quez Watkins run, I told you guys that, man, I thought that he ran those routes very well. I thought he was very explosive, and I compared him to a Darius Slayton and a Terry McLaurin type kind of player. He had that big play element to him, to where he was going to be better. And to begin with, I think he's a good route runner. He's not elite. And this is what I'm seeing on film from this kid, okay? He's very fast and agile, okay? He will beat guys using his quickness and his ability to change direction. All right, he's very much in the top of the league when it comes to the top of this draft, when it comes to his ability to utilize that speed and agility to free himself from defenders. He's a fast guy, no doubt about it. But nonetheless, something that we hope we get a guy in here like Aaron Moorhead who can work with this young man to teach him how to use those first 3 steps to completely stop and fight and get those hands off you to burn by a guy. Because if this kid picks this up, I'll tell you guys, I do think he's got something here. He could be special. If I had to give you an NFL comparison who this kid reminds me of, Terry McLaurin. I don't think he's, if you look at his college film compared to Terry McLaurin's, I don't know that he's quite to that level yet, but he's that type of football player to where he was going to be better than I thought people, were initially saying. Um, Look, I thought he's developed. I think he's been effective, right? And I thought he's developed underneath this coaching staff, right? I mean, there's an emphasis on coaching these wide receivers up. And I think we're seeing some of the fruits of that coming out in Quez Watkins to where whether Quez is a starter or he's the first person off the bench, whatever that role may be, and I don't think there's a big difference in those roles. It's just one guy will get the credit as being a starter because you start off in 11 man and maybe you're the third receiver. Maybe you start 12 in and you're not. It doesn't matter. I don't think the snaps are going to change between the third and fourth receiver that much, guys. I think he's going to have an impact on the offense. Long story short, I think Quez Watkins will have an impact on the offense this year. All right, the number 3 observation or thing that I learned from training camp, guys, offensively, from a talent perspective. And I know some of you guys have wanted me to stay critical of Jordan Mailata because there's a lot of, too much love sometimes that goes around and crowning this guy king already. And I get it, guys. But I'm just talking physically from the talent perspective. I think Jordan Mailata is starting to prove that he might be, another body in this long line of succession of just great left tackle play from a physical talent, kind of thing here, guys. And I'm talking about going back to Trey Thomas into Jason Peters to Jordan Mailata. Yeah, I mean, look, he's got the physical capabilities to be in the conversation with those guys. Now, does he have the technique? Is he going to have the long-term health? Jordan Mailata. I'm sorry, Jason Peters. We've known over the last couple of years to be injured, but I mean, there was a long duration of time where Jason Peters was clearly the best left tackle in football, and we were really fortunate for that for a long time. And I do think Jordan Mailata has the physical talents there. It's just the other things, right? I mean, but from a talent perspective, I think we've learned a lot about Jordan Mailata in this camp. Number 4, while Devonta Smith is not superhuman, man, he's pretty darn good. Look, I'm hearing a lot about guys making assessment on the wide receivers. Some of these dudes, I'm not trying to throw shade at them, but I can tell that they don't know that much about the game. And I'm not referring to other content creators, guys. I'm referring to some of the national media members and some of the local media member guys. Like, I can tell they just don't have a great grasp on the game because they say some stupid things at times. They're not in line with what's actually being shown. They don't know what they're looking at. One thing I can say for certain about Devonta Smith, guys, is that Devonta Smith, to me, when I watch the film, he's just one of these guys that's really good at winning off the line of scrimmage. I think we have a diverse set of receivers here, and I think Devontae's the guy that wins initially off the line of scrimmage. Hence the reason he had such a great success rate in college at beating man coverage. I'm not saying that's going to live up in the NFL, guys. I'm saying that there's a reason why, even in the SEC, he was beating man coverage. There's also a reason why guys like, and I'm hearing things like, oh, well, Jalen Reagor doesn't run good routes. That's bullcrap. That's a very, very generic criticism. Jalen Reagor is very good at the top of the route stem. He knows how to create separation at the top of the route stem. He's one of the best guys that came out of last year's draft at doing that. He was in the upper echelon of guys that's separating at the top of route stems. He didn't face a lot of man coverage in college, guys, in the conference he played in. So he has a long progression. He has, long development, a lot of work he had to put in to learning how to release off the line of scrimmage and beat guys at the NFL level off that line of scrimmage and press. And that's what we're seeing. You got a guy like Devonta Smith who knows how to win off the line of scrimmage, and you got a guy like Jalen Reagor who knows how to win at the top of the route stem and gain separation, right? And then you got another guy in Quez Watkins that just understands how to be that big play guy, man. He has a knack for coming up and beating guys with the changeup. He can change up his speed so well, so he can get you on that half trot and then just blow by you all of a sudden. So I do think we have a really good, diverse set of guys here. We got guys that can win initially, guys that can win at the top of route stem. We have the big play home run hitter guy in Quez Watkins. Personally, I like what I see coming out of this camp from the young guys. I'm not saying we probably couldn't use a veteran, boundary side X receiver that can go up there and take away contested, can go get the contested catches, right? That can be that control guy, the guy that can be a conversion guy, right? But, with Ertz and Goddard, they might view those guys in that way. So it's hard to say, guys. I mean, I think they're just going to want to play the young guys, and they're going to see what they have there. Then they'll reassess at the end of the year in terms of alignments and bringing in other guys. Number 5 camp observation coming from the offensive side of the football is I am really excited about Kenneth Gainwell, guys. And I'm really interested in seeing, what this young man's going to do as the season progresses, because I do think he's got a shot to become the change-up back, if not even the second back in this offense, to be quite honest. He's very good at catching the ball out of the backfield, and that leads into another point I want to make, guys, which is, Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, and Kevin Patullo, the guys that are going to be designing a lot of the passing game stuff and a lot of the, did all the install. I'm really excited to see what kind of personnel groupings they're going to use and how they're going to take advantage of guys to get matchups with the running backs and tight ends in particular. I'm really excited to see that with these guys. I think it's going to be a pretty fun kind of thing to watch going on. All right, some 5 real quick camp observation, guys, on the defensive side of the ball. The number thing I want to talk about is I think who's been the overall camp standout, and I don't think enough noise has been made about this young man. It's Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave looks like a different guy from last year when he was dealing with the injuries to the bicep and stuff, and I think he had a pec injury too, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, Hargrave and Fletcher Cox just look like an absolutely dynamic tandem in the middle of that defense. Yes, guys, I think we got some concerns when you get past those two, but just those two in particular I'm referring to, guys, they look like they're going to be a disruptive force in the interior of that defensive line, guys. Some other things I want to talk about. My second camp observation is I want to talk about 2 guys that were added during free agency that I think these signings look like they're going to pay dividends for us, right? It's Eric Wilson and Anthony Harris, 2 members formerly of the Vikings, Minnesota Vikings. They know the defense. They know the scheme. They're those type of guys that you bring in here, right? Both of them were not like these greatly heralded players in Minnesota. Like, they kind of came up. Anthony Harris became this guy a couple years ago when he had 6 INTs. But, I mean, these guys kind of came up. I mean, I think they might have even been undrafted rookie free agents, guys, if I'm being honest. Can't remember their exact story, but I know that they were not, these were not like top of the draft type picks here, guys. These were guys that kind of showed themselves to be good football players in Minnesota and got themselves a contract once Jonathan Gannon got himself a defensive coordinator position. So Eric Wilson and Anthony Harris, I think those 2 signings in particular are paying big dividends for the Eagles, guys. The number 3 camp observation I want to make, guys, is I think that Slay, Maddox, and Nelson have been solid. I'm not calling them great. I'm not saying that go get too crazy about this. I just think that those 3 guys in particular, and just like the interior defensive line, I do think you have some concerns about who's your third outside corner. I get it, guys. But I think those 3 in particular, when they're in ball games, when they've been doing 1-on-1s, when they've been doing 7-on-7s, when they've been doing the 11-on-11 drills, I thought that when those 3 guys are in there, hey, look, they're winning some reps. Yes, they've lost a few reps, but they're also winning those reps at times too. Shout out Darius Slay for really having a really good day last week against, one of the better route runners, man, in the NFL. And I know that we don't like to think of him in that way as Philadelphia Eagle fans, but, Aguilar is a very good route runner, and Slay dominated him on day 1 there. He did get free from Slay on day 2 on one of them and dropped the ball, but nonetheless, I thought those 3 guys have done pretty well. The number 4 camp observation I want to make, guys, is that Josh Sweat looks like a potential double-digit sack guy to me, and I definitely think that he's probably heading towards a top 50 pressure rate guy. I think the age of Josh Sweat may be upon us, guys, and I just want to say that because I think it's very obvious so far. All right, guys, my 5th and final, or 10th, if you will, because I gave you 5 offensive ones, but my 5th and final defensive observation and 10th and overall camp observation is that I'm really excited about how Ryan Kerrigan could be used in this defense. Here's what I'm talking about, guys. He's got the ability to play as a hands-in-the-dirt 5 technique. That's generally speaking, the Eagles' defense looks like it'll be the left defensive end role. Mind you, offenses can change what is the backside to the play side, so those things can change. But generally speaking, left defensive end is at 5 tech. I also think he's got the potential to play the stand-up/joker role or the right defensive end role, that 7 technique guy that might on occasion stand up as a pass rusher. And I also think that he might have the potential to play the role as a Sam/rush linebacker, right? And this 4-2-5 or 4-3 under front, depending on if they're in base or nickel, he's probably going to be a guy that they use from time to time in that Sam linebacker role. And in an under front, guys, there are a few things, I'll mention them again, that you have to know. Just number 1, your nose tackle is going to be on the strong side of the defense, the side where the tight end is lined up at, right? Your 5 technique is normally on the strong side of the defense. But in reverse, your 3 technique is normally on the weak side or back side of the offense. My bad, guys. I keep saying defense, it's offense. And then your 7 technique is on the weak side or back side of the offense, guys. So those things, when it comes to the defensive line, set you as an under. And then also what you're going to see here, guys, is it almost looks like you have a 5-man front on the defensive line because then your Sam linebacker is then up on that tight end, maybe a yard to a yard and a half off of, but he's definitely what they call an on-the-ball linebacker, not a stacked linebacker. Stacked linebacker, guys, the difference is the stacked linebacker is going to go with the flow, so they're playing backside or the flow of the play, and then in return, the guy that's going to be on the ball, that guy's going to basically be setting the edge, and he's going to be coming right at the play side, right? So he's got to really make the edge work there. I think that if you look at this defense and what we saw them do in little spurts, I saw it with Jannard Avery where they had him lined up in the A gap for the A gap pressure. They took him as a Sam and moved him over. Then they took the Mike and moved him out over the tight end. I do think there's going to be some flexibility and some really interesting things to see here, guys. And I'm excited to see what happens with this team when it comes to how they're going to utilize a guy like Ryan Kerrigan in the different roles he could play and the way that they can disguise things. It's not just the secondary. It's not just pre and post snap disguise coming out from our coverages. It's also what we can do along the lines and how we can create matchups, like in an under front, where the whole goal here is to get a matchup and win it. So pretty excited to see how that kind of goes, guys, going forward into the week, or going into, I should say, week 1 of the NFL season. But that's my observation, guys. Those are my 10 camp observation. I gave you 5 offensive. I gave you 5 defensive. Now it's your turn to tell me, what are your observations? What do you guys think? What did you observe from camp? All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you guys on the next video.